Up here. Good afternoon and welcome to the USDA's Fall Data Users Meeting. My name is Lance Honig. I am the chair of the NASS Agricultural Statistics Board, and for today I will be serving as your moderator. This meeting is a partnership between all of us here at USDA and all of you as part of our data user community. Yesterday we focused on sharing information about some of the work that we're doing, including some changes across the various agencies represented here today. But today we get to flip things around and we get to hear more from you about questions that you might have, concerns, perhaps even that you have regarding our programs. And so I hope you find this semi-annual exchange to be as valuable as we do. We're glad so many people are joining us here today. I know many of you were on yesterday, so welcome back to all of you. But I'm also quite sure there's a number of folks who couldn't make it yesterday. And so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and open things with a few housekeeping items, very similar to what I shared yesterday. First off, if by chance you're having any difficulty hearing what we're doing here today, we do have closed captioning services available. Down on the bottom ribbon, you should have a caption item. You can click on there to activate that feature. We have already posted the recording from yesterday's not only main session, but breakout sessions. That is available on the NASS YouTube channel. You can see the link listed on the screen there. We are also recording today's session, and it will be posted to that same location. As we normally do, we will also be posting any slides that are shared from the proceedings, as well as a transcript, specifically or in particular of the Q&A session that we're about to have here in just a few minutes. That'll be out on our website. We should have that all out there, hopefully by the end of next week. It takes a little bit more time to get that all cleaned up and make sure everything is correct before we get it out there. So keep an eye out for that as well. As usual, we do have to we hope for the best, but we have to plan for some unusual circumstances that could happen. If something unforeseen happens, we'll try to take care of it as quickly and smoothly as we can. But if anything catastrophic happens, and let's just say we had to drop off and restart things, we would communicate with you through the email that you used when you registered. So in other words, if we had to perhaps send you a new link or something like that, that is how you would get that information. So if anything bad happens and you lose us, check your email. Also, you'll notice some other buttons that are relevant on the screen. The first one I'll mention is the Q&A. This is where we are asking you to post any questions that you have. So if you want to ask us a question in the Q&A, not in the chat, we will be working through the list of questions methodically in that Q&A portion of the screen. This is a good point for me to remind all of our panelists, please don't answer the questions in the Q&A. Among other things, we know that we've got a number of folks who are joining us in what I would call listen-only mode, and so we want to make sure that they have the same opportunity to hear the answer to those questions as those who might be watching on the screen. So feel free to start keying those in now if you'd like. We did capture the ones from yesterday as well, and so we'll work through as many of those as we can get to. Today, there is also a chat window. We don't want questions in there, but you can use that if you have any particular technical issues that you want to communicate with us on. And then also, we will be using the chat, potentially anyway, to share any links or other relevant information as we work through those questions and answers today. Should you have any significant technical issues, you can also reach out to either Vincent Davis or Tina Hall at the email addresses that you see listed on the screen. All right, so let's talk about yesterday just a little bit. In case you missed it, we did have a couple of breakout sessions. I mentioned earlier they were recorded, but just as a reminder, we have one on the 2022 Census of Agriculture results and one from AMS on the LMR Live Cattle Data Dashboard. If you want to go back and watch those, they are available on the NASS YouTube channel already. So for today, the plan's actually pretty simple today, really just two topics. Here in just a few moments, we will kick off our open forum, which is basically just a live Q&A session. We'll do that for a little more than an hour. We should be set to take a break around 1:20. Of course, that's Eastern time. And then the only other topic we have on the agenda today is our third and final breakout session, which should start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern this afternoon. Speaking of that breakout session, as you can see on the screen, those of you who can see the screen, ERS will be covering that breakout session, and they will be giving us all an overview of their cotton, wool, and textile data. So thank you to ERS for that. All right, so here's a listing of our distinguished agency representatives who have the pleasure of answering your questions today. I would point out that we do also have Julie Harris from EIA and Schwan Pham from RMA joining us, in addition to the panelists that we had from yesterday. So we can certainly cover questions for those two organizations as well. And then I'm pretty sure the panelists are probably going to be tapping into some additional staff to answer some of the questions as we move through here. So thank you to everyone who's going to have an opportunity to join us in the Q&A this afternoon. So with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and kick things off and jump into the Q&A. And so I'm going to pop up the screen here and see if I can work our way through these questions for you. My plan is to not only read the question out loud, but I will do my best to make sure I mention who the question came from, and then we'll try to get it to the right, into the hands of the right person to answer, and we will move through systematically from there. All right, so first off, I've got a question here from Joseph Lardy. There is talk about the revision of the export sales system. Can you please remove the unknown category? I know it's allowed currently, but is it possible to change it? It's just common sense to know that a sale is made to a particular country. So why is unknown allowed to be used? And so unless I'm mistaken, I think we're going to toss that over to FAS.
Well, thank you for the question. This is a common question that we get at this particular meeting and via other venues as well. Currently, the regulations are written so as to allow an exporter to report a sales to an unknown destination if the country of destination is not specified or declared in the sales contract. So all I can say at this point, it's allowed. USDA has documented this concern, and we will review the inclusion of this concern and consider its application the next time we update the regulations. We don't have a time frame for doing so, but we are cognizant of this issue. We have it on our agenda to revisit as soon as we get an opportunity to update the regulations, and hopefully in the near future. That's really all I can say at this point.
All right, thank you, Paul. Much appreciated. All right, let's move on then. Here's a question from Julie Ingerson. What day will USDA publish its early release tables for the next baseline/long-term report? Mark, I think I'll let y'all take a stab at that one.
Might actually be an ERS question, but typically, and I'll just start. I don't know the exact date, but typically these come out in early December, but I don't know an exact date offhand. Kelly, do you have, Kelly or Jen?
I'm muted. I was just looking to see if I could come up with the exact date. Is Jen Bond on? She might know it off the top of her head.
I do, yes. November 7th is what they're planning.
Thank you.
There you go. So it's right around the corner. All right, moving on. Here we have a question from Hussein Jawani. Is there any update on corn, soybean, county level yield, planted and harvested acres data for 2025? Is USDA going to release this data in 2025? Troy, I'm going to let you tackle that one.
Thanks, Lance, and thanks for the question. As of now, NASS does not have an allocated budget for FY 2025. However, we received markups from both the House and Senate with explanatory notes, strongly encouraging us to reinstate the July cattle and county estimate programs. We recognize the critical importance of these programs to our data user community. Consequently, we are taking proactive measures internally to ensure that we are prepared to produce these data products, especially if our budget situation improves. Rest assured, once we received our budget, we will thoroughly evaluate our options and make well-informed decisions to make sure that we meet the expectation of our stakeholders. Thanks a lot, Lance, and thanks for the question.
All right, thank you, Troy. All right, here's another question from yesterday. This is from Halil Zhao. Will it be possible to get agricultural trading volume into Hawaii from other states of the U.S.? Paul, you want to tackle that one for us?
Yes. Our GATT system, our Global Agricultural Trade System, which is available on the FAS website, does allow state export or export volumes and values by state. But Hawaii not being a export destination, we do not have that data available on our system. I don't know if Joseph or Census is available to respond, if there's any state by state.
The best we have for something like that would be the commodity flow survey, but that is only published once every 5 years.
Okay. Thank you both. All right, Kelly, I'm going to toss this one to you. From Jerry Goodell, how do I sign up for charts of note emails? I seem to have fallen off this distribution the past 2 years.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm sorry you've fallen off the distribution system. Let's get you back on. The best way to do it is to go to our website, ers.usda.gov, and at the very bottom in the right corner is a subscribe button. And that opens up a screen. You can type in your email address where you'd like to receive updates. And then there's a number of items that you can select. If you just want charts of note, you can opt in to just get charts of note, or you can select more items and get information on data updates or reports or things like that as they're released. And so we'll make sure that that also goes in the transcript notes to accompany this. But yeah, ers.usda.gov at the bottom.
All right, thank you, Kelly. All right, got a question here from Mark Fight. This year, corn and soy acres were adjusted in August versus September or October in prior years. Disregarding years with late planting, will acre changes in August become standard operating procedure? Troy, you want me to hand that one to Patrick?
Sure.
Hey, good afternoon. Patrick Bell. I am the new chief of NASS's crops branch, succeeding the esteemed Lance Honig, our facilitator for the day. I suspect that we will, well, I believe the question does acknowledge the fact that there could be differences, late planting and reporting to FSA could be affected any particular year. But our goal is to provide the best estimates at the earliest possible time. So yes, August will become a part of our regular rotation, assuming we are confident in the administrative data that we have in at that time.
All right, thank you, Patrick. All right, let's see. Got a question from Jessica here. Where can I access the historical query for the retail feature data from AMS now that the reports have transitioned to the new PDFs? I can still get to the retail query page from My Market News, but the data is only available in the query through August 30th. So I can't pull any of the data from the new PDF formats into Excel. All right, my AMS friends.
All of those are available on the My Market News site through our API. I just checked and it looks like they're all there. There's a data query page there on My Market News. So if you're still having any issues, definitely reach out to us. Once we get the follow-up from the meeting, we'll send you a link for that and try to make sure that that's available for you.
All right, thank you, Jason. Next up, I've got a question here from Karen Braun. USDA has Brazil's 2024-25 corn area rising 3.7% on the year, but CONAB's estimate shows the area down slightly. Any reason USDA is confident in a higher Brazilian corn area this year? Shall we let Mr. Jewison tackle that one, Mark?
I'm here. Thanks for the question, Karen. As always, we're revisiting the Brazil discussion again. Feels like we just talked about it 6 months ago. But I would attribute the difference probably in our outlook for domestic demand and exports, as well as what that implies for internal market prices in Brazil. Obviously, it's still early, and first crop planting underway, and second crop planting still several months away. So something to keep an eye on. But thanks for the question.
Thank you, Mike. All right, question here from Bevan Everett. What is the difference in survey methods between EIA and NASS for ethanol production that leads to NASS to capture 2% more production than the EIA? And so Troy or Julie, I'm not sure which one of you wants to jump in first from either the NASS or EIA perspective.
Okay, well, I'll go. So, yeah, well, I don't know what NASS does, of course, but for EIA, we have a survey, a monthly survey. Ethanol plants are required to file it. They tell us, they give us their production. It's required. We typically get 100% response. So, and we basically just get their production number and add it up. So. That's the EIA perspective.
Lance, why don't we table that for now? Why don't we have a conversation between EIA and NASS so that we can provide that at a later date and time, if that's okay with you?
Yep, we will get a more complete answer in the transcript. So keep an eye out for that next week. All right. All right. Filtering through all of the questions about county estimates for 2025, since we've already touched on that. There's a lot of them here. I'll throw this one to you, Troy, from Christopher Pudens. What would it cost to reinstate the USDA NASS July cattle report? I know you've touched on the county estimate side. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about July cattle as well.
Well, the July cattle report will cost approximately $550,000. So to reinstate that program, that's what it will cost us this current year. Thanks, Lance. Thanks for the question.
Yeah. And I would just add, similar to what Troy shared on the county level estimates, we're kind of in a waiting pattern right now. And so we certainly have interest in producing July cattle again, but we just need to take a little time and see where our budget actually comes in and go from there. All right. Let's see what we've got here. From Colin Waters, with the current market downturn, it would be wonderful to have a single resource to find aggregated, regional, and as up-to-date as possible farm financial condition data. I know that there are many resources, including the Federal Reserve System, but perhaps Farm Credit System, but can ERS or another agency help compile and share this critical information? Kelly, do you want to take a stab at that one?
Yes, so there's a lot in there in terms of, thanks for the question, a lot in there in terms of what we mean by farm financial condition data. We do 3 times a year post, and I'm really sorry, there's like major sirens going on behind me, so I'm leaning forward to hear or to speak clearly. We do 3 times a year post updated farm, household, and wealth information that includes a lot of information on the whole farm and farm financial conditions. I can quickly try to figure out how to point you to that. I'll also look and see if Carrie Jones, who's here, wants to add anything additional in terms of dates. If there's more specific information that you're thinking about in terms of farm financial condition, just repost a question, and I can hopefully then direct you to maybe some more specifics about what you're interested in. But Carrie, did you want to elaborate on anything?
No, I'm trying to find the next farm income forecast, and once I get that information, I'll post it, I guess. Not quite sure.
Or you can tell, yeah, and I can speak, we can speak up.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, from Joe Zhu, when will the WAOB release the WASD report calendar? I'm particularly interested in knowing the specific date for the January WASD report.
All right, that would be for me.
So I'll let you tackle it anyway.
All right, and I apologize. Those should have been put on our website. They were recently released. January 10th is the date of the January WASD. And I think that most people know this, but just to clarify for anyone who doesn't, the WASD is always released on the exact same day and time as the NASS crop production report. So if you track the NASS crop production report, you'll also know the date of the WASD. But January 10th is the day, and we will get the rest of the dates up there as soon as possible.
All right, thank you, Mark. I would point out NASS should have our complete calendar for 2025 out in just the next couple of days as well. And so lots of new information coming there. All right, next question from Jerry Goodell. Any plans at EIA to release your monthly data sooner? Is the denaturing data the reason for the final monthly data being so far behind? Julie?
No, we've no plans to change our schedule. The monthly data are released on the last business day, 2 months after. So we'll be releasing, the August data on October 31st. And yeah, we have no plans to make any changes to those schedules.
Okay, thank you, Julie. All right, another question here. Let's see, we'll take one from Tomas. Is the CDL, cropland data layer, going to continue to be updated for the foreseeable future? I met someone who claimed otherwise, but can't find any evidence of that.
Lance, do you want me to take a stab at it?
Yep.
Thanks for the question. The CDL will remain and will continue publishing. Currently, we are planning on publishing that at the end of January of 2025 or the beginning of February. But that's the particular plan at this time. We're going to publish that at the end of January of 2025 or beginning of February. Thanks a lot, Lance, and thanks for the question.
All right, thank you. I got a question here from Melissa, actually a couple of questions. First, where is the data users booklet? And then second, where is the Crop Explorer? The presenter said it was on the FAS homepage, but I don't seem to find it. 2 questions regarding the GADS and Ag Profile tool. Is it possible to select an entire state instead of just a region? What is the source of the crop calendar, and why are only a few crops named and not all crops in the region? Or are these the only crops known in the region? First off, the data users booklet, for those who were registered prior to Friday, you should have already received an email with the booklet. For those that registered later, you'll still be getting a booklet. And then it'll also be posted out on our website with all the other data user materials and recordings. And then Paul, did you catch all that, or do I need to?
Yeah, no, I see the question.
Okay.
First, well, I would like to defer the specifics to our senior director of the production team, Ron Franz, who I believe is available online as a panelist, but you can locate all of our geospatial tools via our webpage. So if you just go to FAS, Foreign Agricultural Service.usda.gov, and then click on the data users or data and analysis link, and then there's a geospatial link. So it takes 3 clicks to get there. That's the best we can do, but it's under the data and analysis section. And Ron, if you're available to talk about Crop Explorer and state. Oh, well, maybe he didn't actually get the link.
No, he's there, but I think he's muted, or at least the sound's not coming through. Yeah, we're not hearing you. Yep.
All right, well, I have some drafted responses here. I'm not a
Okay.
specialist, so, but I'll do my best. And obviously, we will answer the questions in the formal transcript at the end of the meeting. So is it possible to select an entire state instead of just a region? And the answer is yes, somewhat, as long as the bounding box is as similar as the state boundary as possible. So take that for what it's worth. The link to Crop Explorer can also be found on the FAS webpage under the data analysis section, as I stated. And what was the other question? About Gaddis and Ag Profile tools. Yeah, I'm unable to answer that question at this time, but I guarantee we will get a written response to the inquiry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and the crop calendar, was there something on crop calendars? Those are, we frequently tap into the Ministry of Agriculture in foreign countries and use their official domestic crop calendars and aggregate them on our website for use of the viewing public.
Right. Thank you for that, Paul.
Okay, my apologies.
No problem. All right. Next question. Patrick, I'm coming back to you. I probably never told Patrick that he needs to be prepared for lots of questions at data users meeting. I kind of kept that to myself until he accepted the job. So just FYI for everybody here. This one is from Brick Welch. What is USDA reliance on satellite data versus hard samples versus survey for state level corn and soy yield estimates?
All right. Well, thanks for the question. Hopefully I'm interpreting it correctly. I believe that the question may be looking for like different weights, those different sources of data, but it's really hard to do that because each one, we really play to the strengths of each of those, and it really can vary from commodity to commodity, from year to year. So we really don't put a specific weight or a formula, you know, for each of those particular data sources. That said, the strengths are, you know, pretty this farmer reported data from the surveys. That really is a lot of times our primary data point, but there can be issues with that, coverage or response rates, or there could be folks who are sometimes, believe it or not, less than truthful when they report back on our surveys. So we use those other two, the satellites and the objective yield data, to kind of play as a check to that on those producer reports. Satellite imagery, obviously very fast and easily accessible, but there are sometimes issues with that as well as, you know, clouds, weather can play into effect there. objective yield plots out in the fields. Those are great, but they are also incredibly expensive to go out and capture those data and send a trained enumerator out there every month to take the measurements and collect the samples. So again, hopefully I answered the spirit of the question there, but all three of those sources of data, they really all have their own separate strengths, and we use those to balance each other out when we are creating our estimates.
All right, thank you, Pat. I love it when we get a question in for Joe DeCampo. So, Joe, this one's for you from Scott Girlt. Does the Census Bureau have plans to change product classification for renewable diesel so we can track exports?
Haha, I came prepared for this question. We've recently approved new numbers. Now, it is dependent on Customs and ITC and the Department of Energy on getting the wording right. But if all things go well, we should have numbers for renewable fuel as of January 1st.
All right, thank you, Joe, and thank you for being here. All right, another NASS question here from Rachel Rathman. Does NASS have plans to broaden the scope of specialty crop acre surveying? Over the years, some states have fallen off the list. I'm wondering if there are plans to make specialty crop acreage data more inclusive like it was historically. And Troy, I don't know if you want to take that one or you want Patrick. I'll leave it up to y'all.
Patrick, can you take that for us?
Sure, I'll take a swing at it. Every 5 years after the census, we do a comprehensive evaluation of all of our programs. We look for trends, expanding acreage in certain commodities or declining in certain states or areas, and we will use those objective metrics to make adjustments to our federal statistical program. We strive to produce as much data and the high quality data for all commodities, because we know that there's more than just corn and soybeans out there, and so we want to make sure we have good available statistics for all commodities across the country. That said, we are, and previous conversations in this session have indicated, we are dealing with a finite set of resources. So we do really have to pick and choose carefully which commodities, the frequency of the estimates, how many states are included, whether it's just a national estimate. So we do our best, but we do, also hear feedback at forums like this and in many other ways. We have meetings frequently with data users and commodity groups that solicit our help to try to gather statistics and create a good measure of their industry. So if there's something specific, we encourage you to reach out, and we would love to hear from you. If there's something specific that you're looking for that we are not producing, can't make any promises, but we'd love to have a conversation about it.
All right, great. Thank you, Pat. Also, I would just mention last fall at the data users meeting, we did have a breakout session that talked about our program review process. So if you want even more detail about how that works, you can go back and watch that recording as well. All right, next question from Eli Lynn. Is there a chance that cheese could be added as a commodity under the dairy group in quick stats and other reports? So Travis, I think you get to take a stab at one.
So cheese being added under, I guess, which cheese are you asking for? Because we do publish some cheese items in quick stats. Most of the PDF file for dairy products, we have the data out there at the US level, and also certain cheese items, we do publish it by state level too. So there is various geographical level data available for cheese, but I have to have more specific, Eli, on what cheese would you like to have added to the survey that we're not releasing to the public. But good question, and if you want to chat about it, you can send me an email, give me a phone call, and we can talk more about it too. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Travis. All right, question here from Michael Hertzer. Is there a strict methodology to not combine sales to two destinations in the flash sale releases? For example, in the sales announced today, if combined what was sold to Mexico and unknown, it would rank in the top 10.
Well, it's an export sales question. We have our team lead, Amy Harding, who runs the export sales reporting program. Amy, did you get a chance to see today's release, flash sale?
Yeah, the flash sales are specifically reported by the destination country. Unknown destinations are considered a separate country. And we cannot combine that with a known flash sale to a particular country, because at the time that sale is being announced, the final destination under the unknown category is not known.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to a question from Christopher here. Would it be possible to publish a revision history for USDA ERS farm income forecast statistics? Kelly?
Yeah, thank you. That's actually something that we've recently been talking about, is how to ensure that that historical information is, codified and archived appropriately, because the way our current processes work is when the new forecast comes out, we update our website, but then that historical information isn't easily accessible or retained. And so we are actively talking about what is the best way to do that and make that information available. It may be in the form of some type of annual report, so that all the information is in one place. So stay tuned. Hopefully this time next year, I'll be updating you with exactly what we've done in order to implement it. So it's on our radar screen for sure.
Okay. All right. Question from Brick Welch. Looks like we're heading back to you, Patrick. With large grain stocks revisions in the past and lower farmer participation rates, what is NASS doing about resolving this?
Yeah, so yeah, we are facing a slow decline, and NASS is not unique as most statistical agencies are seeing a slow, steady decline in survey participation rates. That said, we do have the ability to adjust our sample sizes to account for this, cast a wider net, so to speak. And we will do that to adjust to make sure that we are hitting our strict quality measures for all of our surveys, not just grain stocks. It's a challenge we're experiencing in all of our surveys. But yeah, we have several tools, but the main one would be to cast a wider net.
If I can provide some more insight, Lance. I think a couple of years ago, we did a program. One of the breakout sessions was re-evaluating the off-farm grain stocks program. The off-farm grain stock program, if I'm correct. And then we also, in our current process, we are basically, directing our state statisticians as well as our directors to go out and have a conversation with those facilities to make sure that they are establishing relationships, but also making sure that they are collecting the correct information that we are requesting. So we are doing an outreach effort to basically our off-farm facilities to make sure that we are collecting the information that we are requesting. That's in addition to everything else that we're doing.
And sorry, I'll just add one more. There are two components, and Troy's comments reminded me that there, and I don't believe that the question disappeared here, so I don't see it, but I don't know if it's specified off-farm stocks or on-farm grain stocks, but there are two separate components to our grain stocks program. Troy's absolutely correct. The grain stocks profiles that we're doing with our off-farm off-farm, folks in the off-farm sample are a critical new piece that we've added. And I guess what I was alluding, or what I was referring to earlier was the farmer component or the on-farm portion of the grain stocks. So just additional clarification there.
All right, why don't you stay right there, Patrick? Jerry Goodell is wondering what the percentage of the 10,000 test plots were available to USDA when you were making your updated October US corn and soybean yield estimates.
10,000 test plots. I'm assuming that they may be referring to our objective yield program. Actually, we have I think it's just over 3,000 plots within our objective yield program for corn and soybeans this year. So 3,090, if I'm reading the chart correctly here. And available to us, trying to put the question here. I'm not sure if they're looking for bounce rate or not, but Lance, is that your interpretation too, or?
Yeah, and maybe I'm off base here, but I would share that we had about 83% of our corn samples went into the lab, and I think 55% of the soybeans in October, and so they were at a maturity stage far enough along that we were actually able to harvest from those plots and send it to the lab in St. Louis. That's kind of how I interpreted this question.
Okay. And one other thing, just it's possible might be referring to early in the season. We actually don't go out to all of the samples, but in September and October we do go to the entire sample. So that might be what they're referring to as well. Hopefully we answered the question. We answered a lot of questions. I'm not sure if we answered one there.
If not, we'll see it back at the bottom of this tier, I'm sure. So thank you for that. All right, moving ahead here. From Joel Blome. Kelly, I know you already addressed the part about baseline projections and all, but I noticed in this question you also mentioned wondering where to find it on the website. Maybe you could share that part as well.
Sure, yeah, and I just wanted to clarify, when I mentioned the update yesterday, it was the update for the FY24 information, but the FY25 information will be coming soon, and I'll let Jen Bond expand a little bit on that. She's got some information ready.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, happy to talk about the baseline. Those meetings have been ongoing, and as noted earlier, the early release tables are going to be released on November 7th. Along with that, we'll have an updated baseline visualization, and our egg baseline database will also be updated at the same time. Then in early February, we'll have additional products come out, and that includes the USDA Egg Projections Report. So all that will be released ahead of the Egg Outlook Forum, and then also the International Baseline Data product is also expected to be released about that time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you both. All right, I have basically an identical question from two people here, so we can either credit Julie Broadway or Emily Stearns, but is NASS still accepting comments for revisions to census questions for the next census? Federal Register had an August 2024 date. Is Brian
Brian's here.
Yep.
Yes, thank you for the question. So we did officially close that down. If you do have some recommendations, you could reach out to me directly and we will consider those. One of the things we have to do is set a stop date so we can start doing some content testing and develop and finalize those questionnaires for 2027. But yeah, if you do have something directly, please reach out to me and we'll try to consider that if we can.
All right, thank you, Brian. Question from Kelsey Coleman. I think we've heard this one in a meeting or two before as well. Are there any plans to break out tallow and yellow grease use by fuel type, RD and BD, and the biofuels update in the future as this industry expands?
I assume you're talking about the EIA reports. So we are interested in publishing as much detail as we can, and we periodically review if we have any disclosure issues with breaking out the data more granularly, so we can look at that and if we think we can publish it, we will consider doing so. So I'll definitely make a note to look into that.
All right, thank you, Julie. We're really glad you were here.
Lance, I think Jen can add a little bit on what some of the information that we out in that space as well. If you don't mind, we can add to that.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. It's a hot topic, bioenergy and renewable fuels. And we've got some data products that speak to that at ERS, not necessarily to the granularity that is discussed here, but we have balance sheets for bioenergy and renewable fuels as part of our US bioenergy statistics data product. And the next update is actually coming out next week, so on the 21st. It doesn't split it out by feedstock, but you can trace through a long history of information that draws from EIA as well. But for tallow and lard, we do have separate balance sheets for those also in a different place, and we do estimate domestic consumption. The next update for that one is on 3/25, so you have to wait a little while for additional information, but there is some data available on our website that speaks to both parts of that question. Thanks.
Outstanding. Thank you both. All right, Melissa has a follow-up or an addition to her question earlier when she asked about crops displayed in the GADAS regions. What is the source of the crop calendar and why are only a few crops named and not all crops in the region? Or are these the only crops known in the region? And she's only interested in the US.
Okay, I think we've overcome some of our technical difficulties and we have Lisa Colson online from our production team who can respond to these inquiries and perhaps touch on the previous answer that I couldn't elaborate on. Are you there, Lisa? Or did I speak too soon?
We can't hear her either. Okay.
Well, again, I apologize and we will get a full response to Melissa's questions afterwards.
Paul, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Let's turn on your camera. I am at a colleague's desk in order to respond to your question. Thank you for this opportunity and interest in GADAS. As you know, GADAS has been developed by the Foreign Agricultural Service. And so I'll be honest, we use a lot of global databases, a lot of global resources to respond to these questions and build our databases to create information on crop calendars and what crops are grown in various countries. But NASS is the official source for information on the United States. When it comes to customizing a list, we're not necessarily trying to be as comprehensive with the United States in our application. And so we have the major crops because we're responsible for reporting on grains, oil seeds, and cotton crops. So we definitely cover those. And if we can easily include a few other agricultural commodities, we're able to do that. But we do not have the resources to be as comprehensive on the United States as NASS is able to be. I hope that helps better clarify our answer to your question on how that ag profile tool is working and sourced for GADAS. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. And thank you for finding a way to get to a microphone that works. So very nice. All right, let's see. I'm going to just real quickly touch on one from yesterday from Ryan Carroll. Instead of trying to bring back county level surveys, could USDA simply add summary statistics from FSA acreage and FSA/RMA county yields into QuickStats as a parallel data set that could be used for those relying on the more granular data? I'll take a quick stab at that. NASS only publishes NASS data. I think it would only add confusion if we started incorporating external data sources onto our website. I think it would become confusing for folks not knowing what's the NASS estimate, what's coming from another source. We do utilize those data in a lot of the estimates that we do set and publish. So don't see that happening anytime in the future, just to make sure that we keep the identity unique across the different USDA agencies. All right, let's see. Another one from yesterday, from Melissa Sheila. Says Mr. Patrick Packnett, I think it means you, Paul, mentioned ag timelines and visualizations. What is the direct link for that information? Of course, Patrick was on the original agenda we sent out, so it might have caused a little confusion there. But Paul, if you want to take a stab at that one.
Sure. My recollection, we did not talk about timelines, but this, I believe, is in reference to our 2023 Agricultural Export Yearbook, which was published last May. We have a PDF and we have a visualization of country and commodity data accessible via our website. Again, it's in the booklet. I know we're not supposed to post answers in the chat, but if you allow me, I will post a direct link to that visualization, and hopefully that answers the question.
Yep, that would be perfect, actually, Paul. Links are good in the chat, and we'll certainly make sure that link is also included in the transcript. So folks who want to go back and find that link easily after the meeting, you'll be able to do that as well. All right, let's see. We got one here from Luke Byers. Why has the analysis feature been removed from the Cropland Cross web application, and when will it be coming back? I don't know the answer to that one. Troy, do you happen to know the answer to that?
I don't, Lance, but we can get a response at a later date. Okay.
Yep, absolutely. That's what I thought we would probably have to do, and we will be sure and do that. Just real quickly, there was a comment out here. FAS website might be having some problems, but I think it's back up based on some other links that got posted. All right, let's see. Here's another comment or question from Jerry Goodell. Wow, I didn't realize that these on-farm test plots had been cut so dramatically in the past few years from the old test plots before 2020. Any specifics on the timing of this decline? Patrick, I'll give you a shot at that if you want, but this might be one of those where they go to the old guy because it's a historic question.
Yeah,
so I'll be as
I may have to lean on you for some of the history. I suspect that it is the age-old balance of resources versus, as I mentioned earlier, the objective yield plots are among some of the most expensive survey data we collect, sending out enumerators monthly. And so it's the balance between the, the data that we need to set the estimates and the resources that we have available. I know we've made many adjustments over the years to which crops we target for objective yield programs, and then obviously the sample sizes as well as our resources and data needs allow. So anything specific around 2020 or prior to that, I'll lean on you for the history there, Lance.
Yeah, so the last significant change we saw in objective yield counts actually came in 2019. That was the prior 5-year review that we did. Patrick mentioned the review we just finished after the 2022 census. We implemented some changes back in 2019, which would have stemmed from our big review after the 2017 census of ag, and that was a pretty significant reduction we made at that time for all the reasons that Patrick just talked about. But that was the last significant time. All right. As long as you're there, Patrick, will NASS start producing raisin data again to complete all grape data from California?
That one, unless you want to jump in on the history of it, I may have to get back to you on that one. What the history behind the data are, and if it's part of the federal program. I know we do a lot work with the state of California on California specific commodities. So I'll either have to table that one, or if you have a comment, I'll let you weigh in.
Yeah, we can get a more complete answer for you in the transcript. In general, I would say we don't have any immediate plans to do that, but you never know what the future holds. All right. Let's see. Not sure if this is from Jamie Boley. Not sure if this has been asked, but does USDA have any plans to adjust the county level data for the state of Connecticut to the new planting regions? If so, when? I would say that when they talk about county level data, they might be talking NASS, but I think several folks on here could probably comment on anything your agencies might be doing around what happens when county designations change across the country. This isn't a unique situation. So does anybody want to? I'll let anybody that wants to comment jump in on this one.
I clicked on the federal picture notes, and I think that one actually might even be a census question.
Yeah.
And Lance, I can jump in on this one. We have talked about this one a little bit. So our current plan, as you know, we have many census and survey programs across NASS, and we need to coordinate and align those so that data series are kind of representative of what's going on. So our current plan was to initially publish or make that change in August of 2028 that would represent the 2027 crop year. And then that would align with the data that would then be coming from the 2027 Census of Agriculture. And that's at least the NASS plan of, or the latest plan we have on that.
Any of our other USDA colleagues want to weigh? I just don't want to cut anybody out because I know we're not the only folks that have any data at this level. All right. Hearing none, I will take that as a no. All right, let's see. There are still several questions remaining that again ask specific, and so I just want to address the fact that there are other questions out here specifically asking about whether or not NASS will be reinstating the county level estimates in 25, despite some of the reasons that we talked about when they were discontinued. I think Troy's answer earlier covered all of those remaining questions in that area. So if anybody who posted one of those questions feels like we haven't adequately addressed that topic, please add another question out there so that we can make sure we catch the part that you feel like maybe we missed. All right, we have another question here from Melissa. Are there any other publications or tools where I can find crop timelines for the US? Not sure exactly what we might be talking about when we say crop timelines. We may need, I guess from my perspective, I'm thinking we might need a little bit of clarification on that. Does anybody on the screen here think you have an answer for that?
If the question is referring to crop development, we do have our weekly crop progress and condition reports. We have a lot of information available on our website that shows planting all the way planting through harvest and a lot of the developmental phases in between. So that's what the question is referring to. And I'd like to cite our weekly crop progress and condition report.
Okay, Patrick. All right. We've still got 15 or 20 minutes. If folks have got more questions, please feel free to get them out there. While we're waiting for that, I do know we had a little bit of a, our friends at RMA had a little bit of a follow-up they wanted to share from the last meeting regarding some of the questions around finding some of the, specifically, I think the yield data out on the website. So Schwan, did you want to share a little bit of an update on some of the work you guys have done in that space while we're waiting for some additional questions?
Yeah, Lance, thanks. So on our county yield data now, you can actually see what counties are grouped together to come up with the yield for the Pacific County. Now, these are only for our area yield program. So they're not, they're not the same data that NASS has been publishing. So just want to make sure that that is clarified. You can find our data by going through the RMA website. And then under tools, you should see an option that say RMA information's data. So it's actually spelled RIRS, RIRS. And within that, you can find those area yield. Yep, that's all I have. Yep. And I'll put the link in the chat as well.
That would be awesome. And we'll try to make sure we get that link into the transcript.
Thank you.
Well, so thank you, Schwan. Appreciate that. That was a lively discussion back in April, and so really appreciate not only the update, but some of the work that you've done there to make that a little bit more accessible. All right, I am taking another spin through the Q&A here, and I am not seeing anything new. So let's pause for just a moment here and give folks kind of a last opportunity. Oh, here we go. I think we've got something coming here. Got a question from Tomas. I do really appreciate about repeating the question, but I didn't see an answer in the link posted in reply above. My question, will the cropland data layer continue to be updated in 26, 27, etc., assuming funding continues to be adequate? Troy, I think you touched on that in more generic terms, but specifically in 26, 27, just to clarify, can you?
And I love the fact that he said, Tomas mentioned, depending upon budget, and that is correct. It depends upon the budget, and we do have plans to continue publishing it, but that is 2-3 years from now, okay? And anything can change. Thanks a lot, Lance, and thanks, Tomas, for the question.
All right, thank you, Troy. All right, here we go. Jerry Goodell, I thought the test plot data, which is the most sorry, the screen changed on me. I thought the test plot data, which is the most accurate of what's in field versus satellite, and the farmer survey had a bigger number. What was the number that occurred in 2017 update? So Jerry's just looking for the actual change in counts, I think, that we made back in 2019. Jerry, we can go back and look those up and make sure we get that in the transcript, unless you happen to have found that, Patrick. Just to make sure we get the numbers right, we'll probably just drop that in the transcript. You good with that, Patrick, or did you want to add more?
I think that'd be best. We can make sure we get the right numbers out there. We'll go to the archives. I did have a little bit of follow-up information on the raisin question. As I suspected, that was a project that was funded externally. Funding was provided by an assessment on wine grapes, plus funding from the California Table Grape Commission and the Raisin Administrative Committee, all in California, and they decided to not fund that project anymore. And as Lance alluded to, I'm not aware of any push to reinstate those estimates as part of the budget report.
All right, great. Thank you for that.
Lance, and just to elaborate on that, the raisin piece as well, we recently did a special article, I believe, on, and I'll let Jen elaborate on, just in case the person who asked the question is interested. There we go. She's back on.
Yeah, thanks. We were really excited to have the data, and our Specialty Crops team used the data that was available, supplemented with the Raisin Administrative Committee data to produce that special article. It's in the March 2023 Fruit and Tree Nuts Outlook Report, and we have some data that accompanies that too, in the form of a supply and utilization table too, if folks are interested in per capita consumption and other numbers. Thanks.
All right. Got a question here from Joseph Lardy. We get export inspection data on Mondays. We then get inspection data as part of the Thursday export sales data. And then we get monthly census data. 3 versions of the truth. So with so many things to choose from, When they are all similar but not exactly the same, which should I use as the best data? I bet there's several folks who'd like to weigh in on this one, so I'll open it up to the floor. Maybe I should say several folks who could weigh in on, maybe not several folks who want to.
Well, from the FAS perspective, we do not gather firsthand inspection data. And so we get it from the same sources as the questioner. I believe the differences in what we report compared to what the others report is a time lag. So I would defer to the firsthand gatherers and publishers of the inspection data as a preferable source for what that's worth.
Think anybody else?
Joe here. From a census perspective, we only have what people report to within the custom system.
Okay. Appreciate that. Anybody else want to make a comment before we move on?
I can add something, Lance. You want me to add something?
Sure.
I would the first caveat that needs to be part of a response to this, because you're talking about inspections, you're probably not referring to anything that relates to meat, for example, which isn't required by law to be inspected, right? So I think we've interacted via email about this question specifically before, and my response is still as it was before, which is it depends on the commodity, of course. For example, in the case of corn, we use the exports as published by the U.S. Census Bureau as the official trade number in the WASDE. However, there are other sources that have, as Mr. Trupo mentioned, are better in terms of latency, such as export inspections and export sales. Those should be considered reasonable proxies for said census data until the Census Bureau data is available. Now, again, the answer will also, there'll be nuances that will vary by commodity here. And I would, maybe there's other people at the World Board that want to weigh in as it relates to the commodities that are covered, but that's the answer, at least as it relates to grains for corn specifically.
Anybody else from World Board?
I'll quickly just chime in from a livestock perspective. But well, basically it runs in parallel with Mike. Obviously, we do not have the same inspection data, but our official trade data that we use in the WASDE stems from the census data. And so those are effectively the official numbers and our trade numbers, and then any additional data sources we use as a indicator or an input to help us improve our forecasting. But the census data is effectively the official trade source for meat and livestock balance sheets.
Very good.
In the case of cotton, we just recently made a change. So we look at, there's export sales reports that comes out of that. We also look at its census data. And as well, there is the internal source we use that comes out of APHIS. It is their eFIDOS program. Every mail shipped has to have a FIDO certificate. We look at those three sources of data to derive our official export estimate forecast in the WASDE for cotton. So that's what we use. So it's not one source that we're using these days. It's a combination.
And also, this is Amy Harding from the Export Sales Office. The data that we receive to generate the report is data that is submitted by the exporters. We don't use necessarily inspection data. We do some comparison with the inspection data, but is usually after the fact. There's a little bit of a timing lag between what is reported to us and what may be reported in the inspection databases. So a lot of it has to do with timing, and a lot of it has to do with what is specifically entered by the exporters.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so very comprehensive set of answers for you there, I hope. All right, Melissa provided some clarification to her prior question. Is there a tool similar to the FAS Gaddis Ag Profile tool for the crop calendar in any other site for the U.S.?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, we finally got that working. My apologies, Lance, and to Paul as well for anyhow. Just to attempt to respond to that, we do have crop calendars that we maintain on the Crop Explorer website. So both Gaddis, the Global Agricultural Disaster Assessment System, as well as Crop Explorer can be accessed via the FAS homepage. It's not a real seamless access. You got to do a few clicks to get to it. But if you look under data and analytics and then click on geospatial data, you'll get to the links for both of those sites. We do keep crop calendars there. And I think the question earlier asked about where the source comes from, and it's various ministries of agriculture that provide that data for those crop calendars. But as far as the question similar to the ag profile tool, we don't really have anything quite like that. That's a web-based GIS system, Gaddis in particular, that allows you to select regions of interest, whether that's a polygon that you draw, or if it happens to be a state level site and you want to get the data, state level access data, you can get that. But for the US, obviously NASS is the best source of data for the US, and we keep what we can there for it, but there's nothing quite similar to Gaddis. Crop Explorer is more of a pull system, or excuse me, a push system, and Gaddis is more of a pull system, if that makes sense in the terms of GIS. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Okay, thank you. We got a thanks out there, so I think that's good. All right, another question from Jerry Goodell. Given the pace of harvest on October 1st, the 80 and 60% test plot info being available is quite surprising. Recent 9% elevator bean moisture makes a producer yield lower than 13% seed moisture level. How is the USDA handling this difference? Patrick, you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I can take a swing. So in order for a sample to be processed, it's got to be at the latest stages of maturity. Either for corn, it's dent and mature. I'm drawing a blank on the soybeans, but definitely very close to harvest in order for it to be processed at the lab. And as far as the moisture content, we do have built into our system, we weigh the grains. We also take a moisture test when it gets to the lab, so we can account for the different moisture levels within our calculations, within our procedures. On the ag yield side, I know that's not exactly what the question was, but on our producer survey side, we also ask the producers to report for a standard moisture level. I think it's 15 or 15 and a half or something for corn. I don't recall what it is for soybeans, but hopefully that covered it. I'm not sure, Lance, was there anything else you would add?
Nope, I think that's good. We do account for it in our objective yield plots. There's a factor in the equations that we use to calculate yield that adjusts as needed to move it to a standard moisture content. So if it's dry, it's adjusted accordingly. All right, I see on the clock that we are approaching the end of our time, and right now we're caught up on questions. And so this seems like a perfect time to bring the Q&A portion to a close. And so I have just a few comments I want to make before we go into break. First, a thank you to all of our panelists and staff who have been addressing all of these questions today. In addition to getting your questions answered, I hope you also picked up on the commitment that we have to better serving everyone in agriculture across these agencies represented today. I also hope that you heard both yesterday and today how closely we work together here at USDA, not only to ensure that our programs complement each other, but also draw on each other's strengths. And so you heard how we incorporate data from one organization into another. So we want to make sure that we're as efficient as possible, but also utilizing as much information as possible. So I hope that you've picked up on that. Also, of course, I want to thank our attendees. You are important to us. Thank you for taking the time from your busy schedules to not only join us these last 2 days, but also to engage with us both yesterday and today. So thank you to that. And of course, as long as I'm thanking people, a really big thank you goes out to Marissa, Vincent, and Tina. They have been feverishly working behind the scenes, not only today and yesterday, but for the last several weeks, and in some cases, maybe even months, to ensure that everything went off smoothly. Meetings like this simply don't happen without the help and support of folks like them. So thank you for that. Next, looking ahead just a little bit, we are planning to be back in Chicago and paired up with LMIC's Industry Outlook Conference next spring. So if you're one of those save the date kind of people, you might want to mark April 22nd on your calendar as a tentative date. That's a long time away. And so we want to use the word tentative, but right now that's what we're looking at for the spring data users meeting is April 22nd at the Gleacher Center in Chicago. That will, as has been the tradition in the spring, be a hybrid event. And so if you would like to join us at the Gleacher Center, that would be great. If you'd like to join virtually, that would be great as well. So we're working toward that, and hopefully we'll see some of you there. Thank you for an excellent turnout. All of us are listening. We value your input. With your help, we're going to continue to review and do what we can do to improve and enhance these USDA data and products that we've been talking about over the last couple of days. You will be getting an evaluation emailed to you, so please watch out for that, and please share some feedback with us. We're always looking to not only improve our programs and data, but we want to improve this experience as well. Things have changed and evolved over the last few years, and we want to make sure that we're still meeting your needs in the best way possible through this meeting as well. And so please do share that with us. So with that, we're going to kind of bring this session to a close. We'll take a short break, but don't forget, we do have a breakout session starting at 1:30 this afternoon. As a reminder, ERS is going to be sharing some information with us. And so we want to make sure that you stick around for that. And as I mentioned yesterday, unlike past years, you don't even have to get out and find another link to get back in. You can just stay on the Zoom call. And so you can take a little break, don't log out, pop back in here at 1:30, and then that will bring our meeting to a close after they're finished with that. And so with that, enjoy not only your breakout session at 1:30 this afternoon, but enjoy the rest of your day. And I look forward to seeing you again at the next Data Users meeting, and hopefully in various formats and venues in between. So thank you very much and have a great day.